one of the multitude of satellites that are spinning about the Earth at tremendous speeds, about 22,500 kilometers per hour, which is pretty fast. And they then send a signal off to London, I think, and from London it reaches you in the rest of the world. Quite a complex arrangement, but wonderful that bare seconds after I'm looking at that magnificent elephant feeding on the fresh new shoots of this brilliant spring, bare seconds after I'm seeing it, you're seeing it at the same time. Isn't that amazing? Now these elephants are still browsing, of course, but that's because the flush of green that is now... the flush of green that is now... we'll talk about that just now. It's a young bull just testing himself. Now he's feeling a little embarrassed because we didn't run away, so he's fiddling with the bush. He's feeling a little bit ashamed that he's showed off in front of the rest of his herd. Anyway, they would prefer to graze, and there is a bit of a green sheen starting to develop over the land after the magnificent rains we had a few days ago. And because of that green sheen, they will shortly start to graze rather than having to chew on the last of the leaves, bite off branches, chew on bark, dig up roots, which of course is a lot harder work than just picking luxuriant green swathes of the grass sward. And you can see in the background the ubiquitous fork-tailed drongo. That's that black bird flying around in the background, picking up invertebrates that have being pulled up by the elephants as they move and as they pick branches and pull grass stalks. And of course, I've noticed an immediate explosion of invertebrate life after those first rains. We've seen the odd carrion beetle. The cicadas have come out of the ground after their year of enforced celibacy. They're singing beautifully during the night and early evening and into the night. Crickets have come around. There were certainly about 7 million flies all around our kettle this morning as we made tar-like coffee so that we might bring you a dawn game drive at something approaching a sense. Lots and lots of invertebrates and insects around the place. Now that female in the middle of your picture there, the cow, look at her hips sticking out. Now I think that's for two reasons. I think it's been a difficult winter, difficult dry season after a very poor rainy season, the previous one. And I also think she's old. I don't think she's a youngster. I also think that she's pregnant. And I think that because of the swelling you can see in front of her and just below her hip joint there. And so the stresses of the winter would have been that much more for her if she's trying to feed two. An elephant stays in utero for 22 months. That is a long time. That is almost 2 years that she has to be pregnant, carrying around a fetus. Just have a listen to what's going on around us. It's magnificent. I'm just going to be quiet for a second and just try and hear the different birds. There are a few very interesting things that you can hear there. The first, of course, is the call of... I'm just trying to figure it out. Hang on a second. Sounds like a group of green wood hoopers going. You've got the beautiful grey-headed bushwright going. And you've also got some squirrels alarm calling. Now that's interesting. I think what we'll do is probably take a brief drive around there and see if we can't pick something up. Although, because it's so near the camp, it's likely that those squirrels are alarm calling it. Yeah, it could be people wandering about, it could be anything. Go ahead. So while we're talking about the bird song, a lovely question from Rebecca in California, who says in quite a lyrical language that she's been hearing a different birds around the Juma Dam Cam. You say fluty notes that disappear. You think it might be thrush-like. We do get Karakan thrushes down by the waterhole. They're not migrant, but they will start to call now. So although you haven't, and I know you're a new viewer, so welcome again. Although you haven't been hearing them a lot, they will start to call now because of the spring. So I suspect it could well be a Karakan thrush. Remember, the recordings that you've probably got are taken from a specific area, and birds do tend to have slightly different voices depending on where they're found. I know specifically the southern boo-boo has a totally different call. Well, it's almost like a different dialect of call down the Eastern Cape from the one that it does up here. So Karakan thrush it could be. It is a sort of whistling lilt. The other thing it could be that you're hearing is a black-crowned chagra, which is one of my favorite calls, and it goes. How's that, Vian?
Sounds real.
I just heard one there, unless that was me on the speakers at the final control because we're so close. Alright, I've got squirrels alarm calling here. The elephants are moving off. We're going to just drive around here quickly and see if we can't find what those squirrels are shouting at. They're still shouting. And perhaps it will be a leopard lurking in the camp. You are going to see a little bit of infrastructure, so I'm sorry about that, but it's well worth going to just have a look to see what those squirrels are alarm calling at. And then I'm also going to try and just get hold of Scott on the radio and tell him that I've got some squirrels alarm calling here. So please excuse me for 1 second. Scott, we have got squirrels alarm calling vociferously around the sort of small garden gate to Yuri's. Folks, I don't know where you are, the squirrels are making a big noise here. So we're just going to look carefully around here. Karula, the Queen of Juma, does enjoy flitting through here. There the squirrels are alarm calling. Viam, do you see anything? That squirrel is going ballistic. Now apparently, Deb, you saw a leopard at the Djuma Dam Cam just after drive last night. And that might be something that we're hearing here. We're not hearing, that the squirrels are seeing. But I've been conned by these very squirrels before. They come and sit on a branch and they start shouting at each other and at various things. And I've scoured the area and found nothing. Often. So we're going to drive past the back of the camp. We're going to go towards the Djuma Dam Cam, and let's just see if we can't pick up something in the clearings. Squirrels are pretty unreliable, I've found, when it comes to following them. They will shout at a leopard, but they'll shout at various other things as well, and sometimes it's really difficult to tell what on earth they're on about.
These dodge squirrels are right now wolf criers.
Yes, wolf criers. So we'll look at the ground, make sure there are no tracks. Here we come out onto the clearings of the Djuma Dam Cam. There is a stalk of some description down at the water. A saddle-billed stork. Now a leopard in this light is not an easy thing to see, and when we get the camera close in on them, of course they're the magnificent golden color with lovely black spots, but in this light you can appreciate why they are the color they are. Do not see anything. We're going to go up onto the dam wall and probably feed our way around. And you'll see some of even that soft soaking rain that we've had has affected quite badly the roads. So we'll have to effect some repairs fairly soon. And that's perfectly normal, of course. But I'll show you as we go down here. You can see the damage that water does wreak. Hold on tight, everyone. Lift your drinks up.
Almost spilled my coffee.
You almost spilled your coffee. Sorry about that, Viam. Viam, for those of you who don't know, well, neither of us are very large. Viam apparently has the physiology that works faster than anyone else's, because he eats quite astonishing amount and yet maintains his trim physique. Look at that lovely bird. Oh, they're so beautiful. Lovely saddle-billed stork. So that, we'll just check, everybody, if on the eyes, they're supposed to be in pairs. That one is a male, has no yellow eyeshadow around the eyes. I don't know where the female is. This pair that we get at Djuma here tends to be, they're seem to have lovers' tiffs from time to time, and they can be found foraging alone in the different water holes, and then they come together. Often they're seen together. I was initially extremely worried the first time I saw one, because it seemed that surely... Just have a quick look here before we go and do the screenshot. And so we had that beautiful sighting earlier of the young bull who turned, and he gave us a little bit of what we call a rev. He kind of turned and shook his head and showed us how big and strong he is. And Lindsay and Houston, you'd like to know how long they stay with the herd. Lindsay, they stay with the herd till they're roughly 17 or 18 years old. Then they start to drift away. And they start to drift away because their testosterone levels start to go through the roof. And because of that, they kind of bully the youngsters, and they become a little bit boisterous. And because of that, the matriarch and the older females tell them to get lost. And they'll then go off and probably live in a small group of bulls. Sometimes they'll join up with a big adult bull who will teach them the ropes of single manhood out here in the wilds. For those... It's a very good question. I also mentioned that one of the cows in this herd, the big one that you can see behind the bush to the right, I think that's her, Vian, is that her? I think. We can't really see her properly here. I said she was pregnant, and Jennifer in Missouri, you want to know how on earth I can tell that. Is there a drooping belly, or is there some other kind of swelling? Jennifer, as you correctly surmise, it is actually a swelling up above, around just in front of the hips. And that's where you can see a swelling when they are very pregnant. They don't swell around the belly. I'm not sure of the exact internal mechanism for why that is, but I'm just assuming the uterus is situated higher up than it might be in other animals. Right, let's go and quickly take a screenshot. Then what we're going to do is head off down south towards where apparently that leopard went today. I know Scott did drive down to the south and he didn't pick up any tracks earlier, but we will certainly go that way and see what we can pick up, and then maybe we'll head off and see what's on Arethusa. So we also have a camera at Arethusa, and we got an update yesterday evening and from Deb, and we've got some lovely, in fact this is probably a good spot. Right, this is going to be our screenshot spot, everybody. I'm going to give you an update on the lions just now, and thank you Deb for your update from the Arethusa cam. So this, people, is quarantine clearings. Now you can see it's pretty grey at the moment. It's there's a bit of a golden sheen still from the winter grass, but there is also, if you're looking closely where I am, the signs of the first sproutings of green grass. So on the count of 3 you're going to take a screenshot, and then every day when I drive out of camp I'm going to come to this spot because it's close by, and for the next week or so we'll take a screenshot here. All right, 1, 2, 3. Did you get it, VM?
Yep, I got mine.
Okay, good. Well done. I hope you've all got your screenshot. I'll give you one more chance. 1, 2, 3. Right, send those in. Well, yes, send them in. And perhaps, I know a lot of you are particularly good with the fiddling photographs, and perhaps you could do a proper time lapse for us at the end of 2 or 3 weeks so that we can see the difference. Right, let us continue. There's some guinea fowl in front of us. And just while we're doing that, I'm going to give you an update on the lions. So Deb, thank you for your update about Arathusa. You say that you saw 2 lions on the Arathusa Dam cam yesterday, and that they were in Arathusa camp itself. We also got an update from Arathusa. There were 5 of those Birmingham males around Arathusa yesterday evening. So lots of them. And I'm just going to go, that's why we're going to sort of head across there and see if we can't see them. Because it would be nice to see 5 lions on a misty, eerie morning like this. And then, John, you want to know, are there any updates on the Nkahuma Pride? John, there are actually. They've headed north into the Manyeleti, which I suspected they would. They were chased to, not last night, the night before, through the Simbambili camp, through the staff village. So I'm sure everybody was hiding under their beds. The same place Brent Leo Smith is right now. And that just reminded me of Brent because we're driving past where he lives. And they chased the Nkahumas through the camp. They still seem to be harassing them quite severely. So whether or not they caught another one, we don't know. But they've seemed to have gone off north into the Manyeleti, and I think that's probably the best place for them to be right now, away from the 5 marauding Birmingham boys. Beautiful springish smell around the place. I'm still astonished that the knobthorns haven't flushed. Normally the knobthorns go bright, or not bright, they go sort of pale cream honeyed yellow first before anything else flushes. But here at Djuma they don't seem to be doing that. That them?
That is the Inconus.
Okay. Some tracks on the road, and they are hyena, not leopard. And then a question about ostriches, which is very interesting. I think it's Marilyn about ostriches. Do we get ostriches in the area? We do sometimes get them in the Sabi Sands. I've never seen one at Djuma, no, but I've definitely seen them down to the south at Londolozi. And further north at Ngala, we used to get ostriches fairly regularly. It's a bit more open. They like open areas. They do fall prey to lions quite regularly, but they don't function so well in thick bush. And I don't know if you've ever seen an ostrich, but an ostrich is well over 2 meters tall. It's a very heavy bird, very fast on the flat, but I wouldn't say particularly agile around the thick bush. Lovely question from Washington. Name knows what her ancestry is. That would be interesting. But it's excellent information. Thank you, Georgianne. Kwata means to be angry. So Kwatile means cross, angry. And it actually comes, it's not a genuine African word, that Kwata. It comes from the Afrikaans word kwat, which means angry. And I'm not sure why it's been adopted. It's been adopted by a few of the indigenous languages here. We use that sort of term, kukwata, for anger, for sort of irascible irritability.
Maybe not.
Very nice. Thank you, Georgianne, for that. Now, for those of you perhaps new viewers, what is fascinating is that in the Sabi Sands, because of the way that because there are a whole lot of lodges around here, the records we have on the leopards are amazing, much better probably than in anywhere else in the world, simply because of the number of sightings we have of leopards, and that's because of the number of tourists that there are. I'm just going to look with my powerful binoculars and see if I can see anything.
Yeah, you see it. Straight down that way, straight down.
I'm not convinced that this leopard is still here, but we'll wait and see.
We're going to see if we can make our way in, right?
Okay, we're going to try and go in there. We'll follow them in. Let's see. Ooh. Let me go back, Craig. Wonderful question from perhaps a new viewer and certainly a new interactor. Eddie Alley, I think your name is. You want to know if lions and leopards bury their poo? Absolutely not. Completely unlike a house cat, they don't bury their poo. Their poo is a very important part of the territorial mark, so they is not here. Looks to me. Sorry, you lost us there. Craig, confirm just behind this apple leaf that I've run over. Hey, good news, seems to be over there. Okay, we've got her in front. There, we've got her in front. There she is. There she is. New leopard. Beautiful, lovely golden colour. You can see from here she's really gold. There. I'm going to let you have a quick look at her there. that, everybody. Look at the beautiful way she's blending into the bush here.
I'm gonna cough up a hairball.
It looks like she's either going to vomit or she's doing a belly dance. I suspect the latter. She's going to cough up a hairball. What a lovely thing to see when you first see a new leopard. The sight of her vomiting up a hairball. Wonderful! How gold she is. Much golder than, say, Beulah, who's a paler more honey-coloured leopard. Oh, she's lovely. Watch heads, everybody. Stop here and see where she's just marking her territory there on the termite mound, spraying into that guarri bush, and look at her face looking out there. Going down to the south. Watch your head. Try not to flip the car over. Bad, well done, Vian. There she goes. She's just in front of us. We'll try and get a little bit in front of her so we can get a slightly better view. If you do lose our picture, I'm sorry, everybody. It's because we are now heading to the very south of our traversing area. And I don't think the weather helps. Sorry about the noise. That was nearly my front teeth. It's very thick in here. Marking territory very fastidiously. Get a nice sight of her. Look at that. Isn't she beautiful? Go on, go up the tree. There, I knew she'd smell that. Just leaving her scent. See that? See the spray? Incredibly accurate reverse spray there. Thank you. Quite thick in here.
Yeah, I'm gonna just stick behind you so you can do most of the
Okay, no problem.
Not like you haven't done it before, but
She's heading towards the termite mound now, and that's Craig, everybody. Craig is from Cheetah Plains, and that's one of the lodges around here. He called us into the sighting. Please excuse the scraping sound. Beautiful view coming up here. There she's laying down. Why she's laying down. I'll try and get in front of her. Beautiful. Watch out, Biam. If that flicks back, that will either kill you or me. You ready?
yeah.
Right, there we got a beautiful shot of this leopard now. Liam is just climbing into the terminalia bush that I've planted him in. I wonder what she's eating. This is not uncommon for a leopard, especially if it's been coughing up a hairball, to find buffalo dung and then lick buffalo dung. The bacteria seems to help them. I don't know what she's licking. She is just stunning. I think she's the most golden leopard I've ever seen. Doesn't look particularly angry to me. And her territory is just to the south of Shadows, and we're quite a long way south, and so it's probably pretty much, I think that is buffalo dung she's licking. And she's will roll in it, that's also very common.
Might be rolling in some dung then.
So her territory, basically, people, if you can, I'm not sure if you've got a map of Djuma, I might try and draw you one just now. Oh, that's wonderful. So she has a territory to the south of where Shadow is. You think so?
Mm.
So VM reckons that she's suckling, that she's she has been suckling. What he means, everybody, is that it looks like her nipples have been supped upon by some cubs. Now that is very exciting. Unfortunately, though, I don't necessarily believe him, because I saw her mating the other day, or she was seen mating the other day. Really?
See them very prominently.
Okay, we'll have a look and see. But she was seen mating the other day, so if she has got cubs that are suckling, highly unlikely that she would be. Shh. Yeah, the lion's roaring. Not further south.
I know they got the Sticks Pride in the Mwati last night. Full mala.
It's a very, very brief lion calling, everybody. I don't think you probably heard it. Yeah, but now look at her nipples. That Viam is absolutely bang on right. Viam, are you sure? Does this look like Kwatile to you?
I have no idea.
She's definitely been suckling. I'm just going to get a spot pattern. Everybody, you know the leopard so well. Let me know if you think this is Kwatile. Very distinctive face. 2 spots on her left. I think she looks a bit old from what I've heard of Kwatile. 8 years. This leopard looks maybe a little older than 8. 2-2. She's got a 2-2 spot pattern. Very pink nose, very distinctive.
One person at a time. Tom, can you see in the back? No, I've got right. Okay, I'm going to move forward a little bit for you.
2-2 spot pattern. And did you see the swollen nipples there? Now, if this is Kwatile, then the one that was mating the other day, which we didn't see, remember, we just heard about it, could not have been her. Beautiful. What a wonderful sighting. I was very unhopeful when we came driving in here, I have to tell you. Hooray. We'll carry on following her. She's going further into our traversing area, which is wonderful news. Those lions are falling well out of our area. Sorry about that, Viam. Your head. Sorry about that, BM. Which heads? Ah, yeah, this is wonderful news. So, Georgian in Illinois, I nearly said something about this. I nearly said something about this. I nearly said I used to know a leopard called the Sunset Ben female who had a daughter called the Vomba female who was on Londolozi, and we spent lots of time with her, and they were very gold. And you've just confirmed that she's from the same lineage. Thank you very much for that. They're genetically just a very gold lineage of leopards. Here. I nearly said she looks just like one of the leopards I used to know at Londolozi. Wonderful sighting for those guys on the car there. If you didn't get an award-winning picture there, you won't ever. Beautiful marking territory. This is spectacular.
Yeah, she's heading parallel with us.
So, thank you, Billy Joe, for confirming that this is indeed Kwatile from the golden colour and the 2-2 spot pattern, which we spotted. And Zai, you want to know how old she is? She's 8 years old.
We worked pretty hard for this female leopard. Karula gave us a good run around yesterday afternoon.
Definitely marking her territory. See if she goes up that termite mound, perhaps. She's definitely walking around here, marking very fastidiously. And if she is lactating, which she certainly looks like she is, it's well possible that she's now looking for something to eat, because obviously she will be experiencing some form of nutritional strain, given that she has to produce a lot of milk. You want to know, has she ever raised cubs? And that, of course, has been answered by our resident leopard expert, Ellen Fowler. Ellen successfully raised a cub independently. We are going into a fairly deep section here, so if we do lose you, I'm very sorry. New shoots on this terminalia bush. That's quite late for a female leopard to have raised her first litter. I'm not going to try and drive through there, we will never get out. This is wonderful. I mean, she is astonishingly gold. While we're moving along there, I believe the signal patch dot, you wanted to know, has she ever raised cubs? And Ellen Fowler, who knows a huge amount about the leopards here, says that she's just raised a cub to independence. So thank you for that, Ellen. Stunning. Listen. I heard what sounded like a lion contact call. But I don't know, it may have been Craig's Toyota Land Cruiser, I'm not sure. Let's carry on. I think she's going to cross south of where we're allowed to go. The difference between male and female leopard size will vary from area to area, but in this area it's generally about 3 or 4 that males have much larger territories than the females, 4 times the size where we're allowed to go. I'm afraid that's going to be it, everybody. So she's crossed east, I'm afraid, into an area we are not allowed to go, but wow, hasn't she given us a beautiful sighting. I'm so excited to have seen this leopard, especially now that I know that she is a relative of my old friend the Vomba female and her mother the Sunset Bend female. She's now at the base of a weeping bourbon or Scotia brachypatella. She might pop back this way, let's just see. What a lovely leopard. Okay, that's it for this one, I'm afraid. We're going to head north at a great speed. Thanks, Craigus. We're going to head north at some speed. Apparently, a leopard has been spotted just on Kwatile. So we're going to go as quickly as we can towards that area and see if we can. We are a long way there. Right, so that's probably a well, it's a bit greedy but wonderful to see too. Yourself to with some spanky new red gaffer tape.
Actually duct tape.
Duct tape. Okay. And what's the difference?
Gaffer tape is more materially, duct tape is plastic.
Ah. I'm just going to tell Craig about that other animal. Craig, do you copy Craig? Right, so I believe you did lose our signal once or twice. Sorry about that. But we were at the very deep south of where we're allowed to go. And quite nice views from there. I haven't been down there before. And that does look, we're basically on the border there of Londolozi and Mala Mala. We're sort of on the corner, just about at the corner where they meet, on their northeastern and northwestern boundaries, respectively. And of course, those two places are were the sort of pioneers of ecotourism in this area. So, we are moving at quite a speed. Sorry about that. I'm sure the bush is whistling by on your screen, but we're getting closer by. We just don't want to lose the opportunity of perhaps seeing if Karula is around. I've only met her once, you know, and I feel this is not acceptable, that you all know the Queen of Juma so much better than I do. Impalas, beautiful impalas. Now the impalas, of course, there are people that will tell you that what happens is that they will drop their young according to the rain. Now that means that it's normally around November time, and that when the conditions are favorable, however, the females will just drop their lambs willy-nilly as when they can. And it's given rise, this is kind of, it's a legend, an old wives' tale that has been born about the impala because they're so numerous, I think. People think that they're able to control when they actually give birth, and that is not actually the case. They have, just like all other mammals, they have a gestation period that they must run to term, and then they will give birth. And at the end of November we'll have a beautiful plethora of young impala lambs around the place, which is a bit of a boon for the predators, and about 50% of them won't make it through their first years, but it's always such a sweet time of the year. We're going to get an update from Scott. Scott, have you relocated there? Watch your heads, watch your drinks, everybody. We are bumping through a difficult area. There we go, made worse by the rain. Sorry, Craig is now hailing me on the radio. Affirmative. So basically, we're into the area now where that leopard was seen, so we'll slow down a little bit. No, sorry, we're a bit further south where she was seen at this stage. We're going to keep going at this rather breakneck speed. We don't see her. Wonderful to see a new leopard, and what a beautiful morning. I feel a great sense of satisfaction and contentment from the conditions. It's warmish, moisture in the air, the grass is starting to flush, the birds are singing with an enthusiasm that hasn't been seen for the last few months. So for the moment, all feels right in the land. And while we're chatting about the moisture and the flush of the spring, we did have early rain this year. On Monday, about 36 degrees, 36 millimeters. I think where we were probably around about 25 to 30 millimeters. And Siberia, Zumi, you wanted to know how much. That's a pretty good spraying. And for those of you in the northern hemisphere, that's about an inch to an inch and a half of rain. That's pretty good rain for out here, especially it was a lovely soft soaking frontal stuff and wasn't a storm that creates and doesn't tend to sink into the ground nearly as much as that lovely soaking rain that fell over the course of about 24 to 38 to 30 hours. Into the area between, so we will watch carefully the spots and golden pelage that won't be anything like as gold Kwatile's was. Right, it was just around here. Now, Charlie in Cleveland, while we're looking around for the leopard, you would like to know, have we seen any chameleons yet? I haven't, you know, but they will be around now. We'll look around for them this evening. Now, apparently heading northwest from right here. Look how, can you see the green sheen that has now covered what was a sort of barren grey wasteland until a few days ago? I'm not sure entirely how she could have gone northwest of the block here. Here. Just keep an eye out there for tracks, please, Viam. Juma access west of Sandy Patch Road. Now that is oh, see, okay, I know exactly where that is. That's up here. That's in this block here. It's right in here. Now what we want to be careful of, we can't just go blasting in there because this is a very sensitive area, especially after rain. You can see it's clear. It's naturally clear of vegetation, and that's because the soil is not dodgy, but it's sensitive, and you can crush it quite easily, and you can create erosion. So we do need to be careful. And this is a sighting. We're not going to go driving off-road into that clearing. In the winter, when there's not so much rain around, that doesn't tend to matter too much. But now, because it's moist, you've got to be a bit careful. So she basically went into this area here. He or she or it. Of course, if she goes too much further north of where we are now, we will lose signal, I'm afraid. Just going to call Scott. Scott, you copy? Got no luck here so far. I'm going to drive up Sandy Patch Road. Do you want to do vertical access? So we're just going to keep looking carefully into the block here, see if we can't spot something. It was probably about 10 minutes ago that the leopard was seen here. Very easy to drive past one in these conditions. So what I'm going to do is stop and have a little bit of a listen, see if we can't hear something. Maybe an alarm call. We did have the lying squirrels this morning. A rattling testicular, or some batises shouting. Can't hear anything at the moment. We'll drive a little bit further forward. There's Craig now. He's come round from the northern side. Quite how he's got to where he is without a jet on the back of his car, I'm not entirely sure. That sort of distant wailing sound you could hear came emanating from somewhere in Jiga's bowels. A bit disturbing. Can't see any tracks here. There will be a leopard in here somewhere. I don't know. We'll keep looking. Good morning, how are you? Good, full of joy. Another little clearing through here. Scott is going around the other side of the block. There was a Franklin calling, but that's purely a territorial call. As opposed to an alarm call. We talk a lot about alarm calls, and I often wonder if we shouldn't perhaps explain a bit more about what they are. They are the calls that animals have when they make when they see a predator, and it's to warn others, either of the same species or of different species do pick up on the alarm calls. I'm just going to stop here and listen. Sorry, I parked at a bit of an angle there, Björn.
All the time.
Don't become too nasty there, Björn. I will put you through a Sisyphus bush.
What's that?
Shut up. So an alarm call will be listened to by various animals, especially us. But I can't hear any at the moment. No. Nothing shouting, just the lovely call of a white-browed scrub robin. What is that? No, it is a strangely leopard-coloured bush that I am seeing through my powerful binoculars, but it is not a leopard. No. The bush is playing tricks with me eyes. Alright, let's carry on slowly. And while we're driving along looking for the new leopard, Zai, you want to know why Kwatile was rolling in the dung? I don't know, to be honest, that I believe many of the stories. Apparently it masks their scent, and so they like to roll in the dung so that if they're hunting, they're not so easily smelled. I'm not sure that I buy that, but it's probably the best explanation that we have, that that's what they're doing. So she'll roll in the dung, will mask her predatory leopard scent, and it's easier for her to hunt. I think that's possibly why. I just don't know why an animal, for example, people talk a lot about the fact that predators are able to be smelled by their prey, and so they will use the wind to their advantage. I'm not convinced of it, and I'll tell you why I'm not. Because if something like a sable antelope has evolved the capability to not smell at all, so they're young, the young of roan and sable lie in the bushes and they don't smell, they have no discernible scent to the predators. If they've evolved that ability, how on earth has the predator not evolved the ability not to smell bad, or not to have a distinctive smell, given that it is so crucial to their survival and well-being that animals aren't able to pick them up? So it's probably that it may be the reason that they're trying to mask scent. I'm not entirely convinced of it. So if you do lose our signal here, I'm sorry people, we are now at the northern extremity, and this can be a little bit dodgy. It's worth just having a quick drive through here to see if we can't spot it. Spotted flesh. Stop just a little bit further up here. Have another listen. Important to always have a listen. There's that beautiful bird called the black-crowned chagger that I mentioned earlier.
Hello everyone, being out in the bush and being out there live has its technical challenges. We're experiencing some of that now and are working on it as fast as possible to get it sorted and get you back on the vehicle with us.
Hello everybody, sorry about all of that. Nothing we can do, I'm afraid. It's beyond me. I don't know why it happens. Meteors, aliens stealing bits from the satellites, solar flares, multiverses colliding with our own universe, who knows. Anyway, we're back now. We've left where that leopard was. Scott is going to carry on looking around there. The signal is just too dodgy, I'm afraid. So our plan is now to head east towards the Buffelshoek Dam, and we are going north. Well, no, we're not. We're going east along the northern cut line. To our left is Buffelshoek. To our south is Kwatile or Juma. And we'll see what other wonders the wilderness has to offer us today. Really had a rather nice drive, I think. One magnificent leopard, lovely herd of elephants, an endless bird song. And while I'm driving, I'm going to show you a picture of the black-crowned chagra, that beautiful call that we heard. Yeah, if I drive you into a knobthorn tree now, it is not because I am being nasty, it is because I'm trying to read a book at the same time as driving, which of course is not recommended. Shall we stop?
Yeah, not in the dip.
Okay, it's not in the dip. So the black-crowned chagra, everybody, is this bird here. And not a particularly distinguished looking fellow, but very beautiful call. And we also get the three-streaked or brown-crowned chagra there, and I'm not going to attempt their call, that's much too difficult. Beautiful birds. Thank you, Björn. Other birds that I heard while we were sitting there was the emerald spotted wood dove, and they have a lovely springish type call, and they go doo, 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 very peaceful spring sound. Hello Maggie in Australia. You want to know if that robin that we hear all the time here, the white-browed scrub robin, is related to a Christmas robin redbreast from Europe. Yes, I imagine it is. I don't know exactly, but I'm sure they're part of the same family. And they're not, you know, they won't be the same genus necessarily, but definitely part of the same family. And because they're what we call Palearctic, so they live in the old world, basically, Eurasia and Africa, there will be a constant theme, if you like, of bird families that extend in many areas. So, for example, hornbills occur all the way from the Cape through to northern Africa, down into Asia, and all the way across to Bali and some of the islands there in the in Southeast Asia. Hornbills everywhere. So you'll find closely related birds throughout that area. Then, when you cross the Atlantic across to the Americas or the New World, there'll be some families of birds that don't occur here because they've been separated for so long. They would have evolved into different families, and some will be similar, but some not so much. And then across to Australia, where you are, Maggie, you'll find birds that definitely are very distinct from those you find around here. But because you're slightly more connected via New Guinea and the islands up towards Indonesia, then you will find that there are some similarities. An area is, the more likely it is that the birds will have evolved into different families and different kinds. rather in Tucson, Arizona. An interesting one from you. I've banged on quite a lot about the fact that whenever we see a male mammal, people say, wow, he's a big boy, even if they've never seen one before. And then if they see a female like that leopard we saw today, nobody comments on whether she's big or small. They simply say, well, she's beautiful. And I've postulated that that's a very natural human reaction, because it's how we react to seeing men and women. And you say, rather, you want to know, have I found the same with birds? Or do people see male birds, which are often more colorful than females, and do they see male birds and say, wow, that's a beautiful bird, rather than that's a big bird? Rather, you make a very good point. Absolutely, that is what happens, except when we see eagles. And what is interesting then, we're going to lose signal here briefly. I'm just going to be quiet until we're through the dip. Right, I think we're back now. So rather, what does happen is that with little birds, which are obviously very little, because they're not mammals, we don't try to anthropomorphize them. We don't anthropomorphize birds nearly as much as we would mammals, because obviously they're much less closely related to us. But what is interesting is that when people see a big bird like a martial eagle, and I do it myself, the kind of default reaction is to say, well, there's a martial eagle, and without knowing whether it's male or female, because it's a big animal, it will be referred to by a he, even if we don't know. So we'll say, well, he is a magnificent looking bird because it's a big martial eagle. Very seldom will people see a big bird and use the word she to describe it, which I think is quite interesting. Thank you, rather, in Tucson, Arizona, where I imagine it's starting to cool down a little bit. I believe it's quite a hot place in the world to live. And I always remember that Tucson is in Arizona, of course, because of Paul Simon and that astonishingly magnificent album he made in 1987 called Graceland. Won him a number of Grammy Awards, and of course was recorded during the bad old days of apartheid with some of South Africa's best and most unexposed artists, like the ladies with Black Mambazo. Tucson, Arizona comes in the track called it's called Under African Skies. She did a duet. Particularly relevant to the wild we're seeing, but definitely relevant to Africa and putting the music of our wonderful South Africa on the international map. Except that the little Cambritan bush you got in there. A fast squirrel. He seems to have either lost his green bush or placed it in the nest already. Let's carry on. No, there it goes. On the ground. Hiding behind a tree. Okay, yeah, let's scrap. There it goes. Up. I suspect birthing time for a squirrel is not too far off, and so you'll find that they will line their nests with soft material for the little baby squirrels, which when they're born, a squirrel of this size, it's quite an astonishingly cute thing to see a little squirrel like that. Right, onwards to Buffelshoek Dam. Molly, you have asked a question to which I have absolutely no clue as to what you are asking or what the answer is. So if you could perhaps send through a bit more explanation, I would love to know what you mean. Molly, you're asking, do the ants and other insects here get something called cordyceps? C-O-R-D-Y-S-E-P-S? Molly, I don't know what that is. And I'm a bit ashamed of myself for not knowing. So please will you send through a little bit more information and I'll try and find out if the ants and insects here get cordyceps. Liam, do you know what cordyceps is? No. You're just a cameraman. It's a hungry cameraman, but a cameraman nevertheless. You must be ravenous now. You haven't eaten anything for at least, what, 30 minutes? You'll be okay, will you? Yeah. So we're now approaching the northeastern corner of Djuma, and from there we will head south slightly towards the waterhole that is Buffelshoek. Buffelshoek, by the way, which I'm sure a lot of you hear me rattle on about every day, means buffalo's corner. A hoek is a corner in Afrikaans, and the buffel, unsurprisingly, is a buffalo. Just have a stop and a listen at the top of the hill here, see what else the spring is going to give us. So we'll just have a stop here and listen. Couple of you asking a little bit about young Madiba and where he is. I don't know where he is, I'm afraid. Ramey and Zoot, you were certainly two of those who are wondering. We saw him 2 days ago. Scott saw him, and then they tracked him into a big block where we couldn't get the vehicles, and then it got dark, I'm afraid, before we could get in there. I think he's fine. I think he's knocking about there, and when they did see him, he was very full. Shadow was nowhere to be seen. He caught a gerbil, and it seemed to be so full that he just eventually gave up and let it go. So I think he's continuing to make his own kills. I'm just going to remove a spider's web quickly. And, there we go. There was a spider's web there, Liam, I promise.
Touch my camera.
Sorry about that. So Madiba is absolutely fine. I think he's very successfully hunting. Okay, let us go towards the waterhole and not touch Vian's equipment anymore. You know what else? I think what we should do at Buffalo's Hook is also take a screenshot of the spring, and we'll do that. I'm not sure. I'm sure somebody will go there every day. Because that will change profoundly over the next little while. You'll notice when we get there that there's very little in the way of grass around the water, and that's the same around any waterhole here. Oh, this is a good road to do my new trick. There we go. Hey? Watch out, VM, I can't reach the brake, as you know. And all waterholes are sources of potential erosion because the grass gets grazed flat there because it's the most convenient place. It's a nice thing to have a bite to eat and then drink immediately, as opposed to wander away too far. And so they will change a lot during the wet season, and hopefully the seeds will start to take now and the grass will start to grow around the waterholes. We're now on what is called the Cheetah Cut Line, which is the far eastern boundary, and to the east of us is a beautiful property called Torchwood. Yeah, I think this is what it feels like to be Brian.
You mean like a giraffe?
Like a giraffe, yes. Brian, for those of you who don't know, is 6 feet and 4 inches tall. Brent Leo Smith is not much shorter than that. VM and I are 5'6" and 5'8" respectively. So in the summer we can't see over the grass. It really is very, very lovely out here this morning. Okay, my bottom's getting sore now, Vim. I'm going to sit down in the car. Now, for those of you who are wondering, perhaps you're a new viewer and you're wondering why it is that you are having to stare at me consistently, and why there is not another perspective perhaps of the reserve, that is because the other vehicle called Wendy that we normally use is now in fact a resident of Hoedspruit, which is a dubious settlement just to the west of us, where there is a mechanic and a proper workshop, which we don't have the facility of here. And Wendy has basically been hospitalized for the foreseeable future, hopefully back in, say, probably 3 or 4 days. She's being looked after there. We don't know what's wrong with her yet. We're waiting for a diagnosis, but things are not good for Wendy at the moment. But when she gets back, there will be 2 of us, and also there will be a bush walk when we manage to iron out some of the little glitches that are going on there. So then you get 3 perspectives of the bush, which is really nice, especially that one on foot, where you get a different perspective from ground level. You can really sort of immerse yourself. It's a very immersive experience because you can get an idea of what it's like to be a guinea fowl or a francolin or a bird in a tree or something like that. The other thing about this time of the year is that when these birds start to call, I find I have to relearn some of the calls, because you don't hear them for 3 or 4 months. I've just heard one there, and I know that I know it, but I can't remember what it is. Possibly a bunting, golden-breasted bunting, little sparrow-like bird. Starling, but hiding in the bushes. So I've just got some information on cordyceps. Apparently an endoparasite that grows on insects and arthropods and eventually takes them over. I don't know if we get them here, Molly. I will try and find out though. I think that's quite an interesting one. I'm assuming that they're naturally occurring where you are as opposed to invasive. I don't know. Totally stumped by that one. Certainly one of the most interesting things that what it made me think about it was that I've just started to see spider hunting wasps, not today, but I saw one yesterday. And a spider hunting wasp will lay its eggs in a spider. And well, there are a number of wasps that do this, some in caterpillars, some in spiders. And what they do is they sting paralyze. And well, there are a number of wasps that do this, some in caterpillars, some in spiders. And what they do is their sting paralyzes the spider, and the in a manner befitting the king of the jungle. Bonnie, I would do that, but we don't get newspapers delivered out here, and so unfortunately I can't roll one up and go and bop the Birmingham boys over the nose with it. Were we to get a regular newspaper delivery, I would certainly take up your husband's suggestion and go and go and lay down the law for them. Right, we're now coming to the viewpoint. Get your screenshot fingers ready. You won't need to be too fast about this because I'm going to stop. Right, so there is the shot, people. Yeah, I think let's get a bit of foreground, some background. Of course, you will take this at different times or different weather conditions, so the sky will look different. Take particular note of the knobthorn tree in the left-hand side of your picture, which I think is actually dead. I don't think that's going to flush. But the rest of that bush that you can see, that greyness there, is going to turn green in the next few weeks. Right, ready? 1, 2, 3, screenshot. One more. 1, 2, 3, a screenshot. You can hear a hornbill calling there. And then a question about, in fact it's flipped straight out of my mind, I'm going to have to get it again and then I will address it. Something about the lions. Let's have a quick listen. Oh yes. Right, Marty in Huntington Beach, you want to know what the life expectancy of lions and leopards in the area are. Marty, the average leopard life, female leopard, is probably about 15 years. And we discussed earlier up to about 18. That's pretty old though. In captivity, probably more than 20. But life's not that easy out here. For male, 15 is, or 14 is very old. So I'd say, yeah, average 12 maybe. Maybe 13, but 13's starting to get pretty ropey old. So that's the leopards. Lions is a great variance. So because of the variance, to use the term average is not particularly meaningful. Certainly the oldest male lions in the Sabi Sands were, I think, the old Sparta males. And they were, I think, 16 or 17 when they were finally ousted and killed. But the average male lion age is probably not more than 10. They probably don't normally get to more than 10 or 11 years old before they're ousted. And once they're ousted from their territories, which is exactly what's happened to the Matimbas now, once they are ousted, what tends to happen is that life becomes extremely difficult. They get thin, they get weaker, and eventually they're killed, unless they can take over a territory. So, potentially much older if life is easy. So if they're not being pressured by other male lions, yes, a male lion can probably live up to maybe 14 or 15 years. So that's generally it. The lionesses, I'd say 12, 13, they're doing pretty well. Yeah, they're probably dead by 12 or 13 years. There it is. Always easier for an animal in captivity to live that little bit longer. So, I mean, what the Birmingham boys are doing here, while the lioness murdering is not particularly explicable as far as we're aware yet, I mean, we're doing a lot of research into it. The fate of the Matimba males is entirely in keeping with the average of what happens here. Right. Only hornbills singing gently in the wind here, so we'll carry on. Right, Joan in Arkansas, you would like to know, do lions sometimes eat each other, and once they've killed each other? Joan, they do, you know, but not always. Sometimes, I mean, we've seen male lions eating cubs, which is fairly distressing to watch. We've seen father lions eating their cubs, which is even more distressing to watch. And sometimes I've seen two male lions eating their brother. They didn't kill him, he died naturally, and then they ate him. So, sort of last right, if you like. I'm glad we don't have to do that. Sometimes they will eat lions that they've killed, and sometimes they lie next to them and lick them for a while, and then they disappear. There's no rule, but absolutely sometimes they will eat each other. Cannibalism is not unheard of in the lion world. And certainly the more people find out about lions, the more they tend to view them in a slightly dim light. They're not shy of a bit of cannibalism, a bit of incest, which is a bit disturbing from a human point of view. But of course, out here, it's an entirely natural and normal way for them to behave. And Sherry, you're worrying about Junior and his existence in the Nkuhuma Pride. As far as I'm aware, he did go north with them into the Manuleti, so I think he's all right. He's not going to challenge those 5 Birmingham boys on his own, though. I think he's going to be bigger than they are, because I think the Matimbas are pretty big male lions. I don't think the Birminghams are particularly large. But on his own, he's in a very precarious position. Lots of male lions around the place, all of them in coalitions, and he is basically on his own. Steenbok. So while we look at a Steenbok which is now hiding from us, the 2 of them actually, 2 little Steenboks. Russell, you want to know, is it possible that because Junior is knocking about with the Nkuhuma Pride, is it possible that that's the reason that the Birmingham boys are killing the females? Russell, I don't think so. I wouldn't throw any possible theory out of the window right now, given the lack of certainty over it. I don't think so, because I have seen the incidences of male lions killing females before, in the absence of a young male like that. So I don't, think about it together and come up with various possible answers to why it is that these Birmingham boys are marauding through here and killing what could be the potential mothers to their new cubs. The more, I think, the closer we'll get to finding an answer, or certainly we'll start to ask the right questions. That's the key, of course, to good research, is good questions. Right, on we go. We'll take Leadwood Drive towards Twin Dams, which now is not Twin Dust Bowl anymore. It's actually got some water in it. And by then we will have visited all waterholes on Djuma during the course of the morning. So while we're looking at these little steenbok, which is very sweet indeed, that's the male obviously with the horns, and the female lying down. Oh, look at that. I've never seen this. People will tell you that a steenbok is a solitary animal, but they're not, you know. They live in these pairs. They're not often seen together. They live in the same territory. They're not often seen together. So Matt in Texas, you want to know about frogs, and you've heard about, I think, an entirely water-dwelling frog somewhere that's called the African clawed frog. I've definitely not heard of an African clawed frog. I think you're talking about what's called a platana. Now I'm going to show you a picture of a platana in my book. A platana is probably one of the most unattractive frogs you can find. But I will find one in my little frog book for you, and I wonder if this isn't the one that you are talking about. They live almost exclusively in water. There we go. They're kind of obesely large, and of course that's because they swim more than most of the other frogs do. That is a platana there. The most common one we get here is this rather gruesome looking fellow called the common platana. There he is. That may be what you're seeing, Matt. And it just says here, common platana, off-white libs, blah blah. Almost permanently in water, bodies are streamlined and slippery. So that's where I think probably what you're looking at, Matt. Steenboks have hopped off gently into this warming day. There's a bateleur nest not too far from here, and I'm hoping at some stage to find some baby bateleurs. When I say there's a nest, I don't think I've actually found the nest, but there's a couple of bateleur that lurk in this area, and I'm sure it's because they have a little nest nearby. A bateleur, for those of you who don't know, is a predatory bird. It's a scavenging and predatory bird, beautiful black with a red face and white underwings. I don't see them here though. Make sure I'm still plugged in. Couple more signs of spring all over the place, bits and pieces of grass coming up. I'm going to show you just quickly what I can see here. There, just in front of the car. I'm going to get out quickly. Here, aha! I was attacked by a Sisyphus bush. What I want you to look at here is just this little bit of green. Can you see it, Liam? You can just see a few new shoots coming out of the ground, and these are not grasses. These will be probably flowers at some stage, and those are the, so these are the, what we call, I've lost it now, the dicotyledons, so like a bean. They're coming out of the ground, the leaves are spreading, and then another two will come from the side, and they will eventually grow up and probably into a flower. And then here you can see the grasses starting to come up. You can see the fresh green shoots here, and that's what those little steenbok will be desperately trying to look for now after a hard winter. And I'm going to have a little taste myself. What one, Liam?
I'm fine.
You're all right. You've eaten enough today.
Yeah.
Good idea. Lovely, sweet, new, fresh grass of the spring. Delicious. Well, I mean, look, it's not bacon and eggs, but it is it's something. Okay, let me plug myself in again. Tastes like fresh mown grass, that does. Matt, in Texas, I'm glad we seem to have found some common ground. You say that that common platana is exactly what you've been seeing. That's good news. What have you got there, Liam? Okay, right. Liam is just hanging off the side of the car looking at tracks. I thought maybe he'd spotted something slightly more exciting than vehicle tracks, but he hasn't. And going into the summer, of course, we will start to see a few more snakes, which normally terrify the wits out of people, but we don't see a huge number of them. And one of the other things we see, of course, are the snake eagles, the brown snake eagle and the black-breasted snake eagle, both of which, there's a batelier. Yeah, I'm gonna, I think he's going to come. No. There we go. That's the juvenile batelier that we've got with a longish tail, and I think they're quite closely related to some of the snake eagles. And Anna Marie, you want to know, is the brown snake eagle likely to take some kind of, would it attack a black mamba, or is a black mamba a bit big? I think you will find, Anna Marie, that a brown snake eagle wouldn't take an adult black mamba. You know, an adult black mamba can be up to 4 meters tall. That's 13 feet. So I think that's probably a bit big for a brown snake eagle to take. Beautiful bird. It's one of the only big raptors that's able to fly in this kind of, well, in these conditions that are not, they're not huge numbers of thermals flying up. But because they have such a short tail, the drag is less, and so they're able to fly much more efficiently than some of the other birds at low height. Beautiful. Flying amongst the marula trees, but you're seeing that he's having to flap all the time. Flap, 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 and then glide a bit, flap, flap, and glide a bit, and that's because there just isn't the same heat coming off the ground, allowing them to soar and glide. Right. Right, well, I'm afraid we're nearly done with our drive. It's been a rather magnificent one, I feel. Right, just before we close, I just want to show you something interesting here. Can you see it, Jim? Let's see what I'm looking at. Oh, just plug myself in. In case I go over time, waffling away. This is called a giant land snail, everybody, and a number of you have seen these before and you know about them. And it lives, is that focal length okay? It lives to about 10 years, apparently, I'm told, reliably. And this one, of course, is not in fact alive anymore, but it has been eaten. It's been fed upon, possibly by a tortoise. Now, a tortoise, can you see the where it's been chewed on? A tortoise will eat that to try and get the calcium, which of course is very important for the development of the carapace on a tortoise. Carapace and plastron, the shell. Okay. And then we just had a quick comment from somebody in New Zealand. I think it was Marty, maybe Marty. We'll get the name again. Sorry, I have forgotten. My mind is like a sieve today. About the evolution of birds and how in New Zealand, it's Joe in New Zealand, about how the evolution of birds in New Zealand has resulted in them being flightless, and that of course is because there's so many, there aren't any mammal predators, and it is amazing how the adaptations of birds are so different throughout the world, dependent on the predators and food sources that they have. It really just continual source of fascination for me. So it's been a wonderful drive, I think. We've had a beautiful, beautiful female leopard. I'm so pleased to have seen her and reconnected with that lineage of leopards that started with the Sunset Bend female, Londolozi to the Vomba female, and then lovely to see Kwatile, beautiful golden lineage. They're much golder than any of the other leopards that I've seen. Lovely herd of elephants to begin the day. Thank you to Viam on a camera. Thank you, Viam. We will take Viam back to feed himself again now. He's starting to look a little bit thin and emaciated. And and then a big thank you, of course, to Louise and Nikki in the final control room. They, of course, have been working frantically, sending through your questions. And big thank you mostly to you. You've given us mostly of your time, and you've given us your intellectual capital, some wonderful questions and comments throughout the morning, and we really do appreciate hearing from you a lot of the time. Also, Scott was out trying to track, and he has been very helpful in that. It means while he didn't find anything specific, he did mean that we didn't check areas that we didn't necessarily want to. So that's it for the morning drive. We will see you later on in the afternoon. I think Jamie will be driving you this afternoon. I'm not sure. We're still going to be on one vehicle, I'm afraid. Reliable old Jigger with its various quirks and groanings coming from its undercarriage. Hopefully we'll keep him or her going, dependent on what your want is. And Wendy will be back probably in 3 or 4 days, I hope. And possibly the bushwalk as well, which will be great. Okay, so from a warm, slightly windy, but very pleasant Lowveld of South Africa, the world's most beautiful country, we will see you this afternoon. Thank you very much. Goodbye and stay well wherever you happen to be in the world.